Thank you all for attending the second annual State of the County Luncheon. Just as they do on many other productive events and meetings year-round, the county's Economic Development Agency under Director Rob Field has done an outstanding job in organizing this, and we want to all thank them for their help. Though the inland region has been hit hard economically, Riverside County's natural advantages and promise bear recognition. Our location, weather, and landscapes are ideal. The county is so large that the states of Connecticut and Delaware could fit inside it with room to spare. The boom that pushed our population over 2 million with an explosive 42% increase over the last 10 years is over. But Riverside County's growth still leads the state, and this dynamic growth will continue to attract investment that diversifies and stabilizes our economy. The residents and businesses of this area, new and old, want to pitch in to make it better. You see that vividly at the ballot box, even in these tough times. 62% of voters agreed that the county must expand its investment in critical freeway and other transportation improvements by passing Measure K last November, which raised bonding capacity to $975 million. Significantly, too, voters in that same election reaffirmed supervisors' authority to lower new employees' pensions by passing Measure M by more than 60%. You can also see a shining future in the eyes of our youth commissioners and the Boy and Girl Scouts as they maintain a trail in Hartford Springs Park, or clean up litter in the lush pools in Temescal Creek, or complete a merit badge project in the Horseshoe Canyon Community's Garden, where they've identified plants and trees for public appreciation with finely detailed wooden signs. Even the pressures of severe budget reductions should not divert us from looking confidently ahead. This Board of Supervisors and top-notch county staff are taking proactive measures to protect and enhance the county on many, many fronts. With Supervisor John Tavallone at the helm of the State Association of Counties, we have an inside perspective about the details of the shift of state responsibilities called realignment, such as putting low-level parolees under county probation. That and the advanced work done by the team headed by Chief Probation Officer Alan Krogan has allowed us to properly evaluate what we are facing. It gives us a better chance to rehabilitate these offenders because the county is connected to our communities. With federal and state incentives and subsidies ramping up for quick development of alternative solar and wind energy, the old notion that our desert lands are so vast that every use can be fully accommodated without damaging its ecosystem and beauty has been shaken. Supervisor John Benoit recognized the impact thousands of square miles of solar arrays can have along the I-10 freeway and other scenic desert highways. He and Deputy County Counsel Catherine Lind, Transportation and Land Management Agency Director George Johnson, and Economic Development Agency Director Rob Field have done groundbreaking work, crafting a template for use by other counties and working with the solar industry to frame fair mitigation and conditions under which these projects can be achieved. With huge new census numbers for Riverside County, Supervisor Marion Ashley led us through the process of successful redistricting. Testimony by dozens of residents underscored just how sensitive the process was. Across many hundreds of miles of district lines, at respecting communities, and establishing strong new boundaries. County representatives are listening carefully to residents and businesses. As an excellent example is the time and consideration Planning Commissioners John Roth, John Petty, John Snell, Jim Porras, and Jan Zapardo gave to the Liberty Quarry project with 6 hearings and testimony from hundreds of concerned residents in an unprecedented engagement of the concerned public. Supervisor Jeff Stone, outraged that the county's 4 newest cities fell victim, through no fault of their own, to savage cuts as the state partisan budget stripped the new city startup revenues, expanded our thinking this summer, gaining nationwide attention with articles in the New York Times. Supervisor Stone wants to harness the power of South California's rebellious rhetoric to get state reforms and more recognition for our condition and needs in Riverside County. If he combines his talent for attention-grabbing concepts with the detail and expertise he has demonstrated in establishing county health ordinances, he may just succeed. I would also like to express appreciation to Larry Parrish and Deputy CEO Jay Orr for jumping into the breach here at this transitional point as the county makes key changes in key positions and throughout our departments. Many county departments have confronted austerity with agility. Reductions need to be combined with restructuring management and support staff. Flexibility and teamwork are key. Code enforcement under Director Glenn Bowdy has come up with better ways to field public services with less staff. The spirit of innovation is found even in enterprise fund departments like waste management, where Director Hans Kernkamp and his staff have literally created $47 million out of thin air to benefit all the county's ratepayers. Now that's the value of the extra space they have created at the county's Badlands and Lambs Canyon landfills by using a nifty method developed by county engineers of covering trash daily with special reusable tarps they developed with high-tech fabrics, and rather than filling the landfills with bulky dirt or green waste. That won a statewide award. But there's no way even a special tarp can cover this year's budget hole. Out of all 19 budgets that I've seen, it's the toughest. This budget is more than a mechanical exercise in arithmetic. It's harder, not just because basic revenues are down 20%, but because we know our peak tax base was an illusion of the housing bubble, and it's not coming back. It's harder, not just because we have an $80 million gap to fill, but because severe cuts, averaging 35%, have already been taken by non-safety departments. It's harder because our reserves are at a bare minimum, having been drained to shore up public safety functions. For 4 years now, we have staved off the day when fiscal reality would confront the sheriff's and district attorney's departments. It's harder because the clock is running out and employee jobs are at stake. Laid-off employees would face forbidding odds of finding another job when there's 15% unemployment out on the street. Saving these jobs can only be done through common sacrifice among all of us, all 18,000 county employees. And the sooner we start paying into our pensions and put all new hires under a lower pension formula, the more of our fellow workers' jobs we can save. Paying our share of pensions would be necessary even if there were no budget deficit. The county and taxpayers should not be completely at risk for CalPERS investment losses. And each employee should recognize that there is no better place to invest a portion of his or her pay than into their fixed benefit pension. Paying into pensions now is fair and reasonable. This can do the most amount of good immediately in reducing layoffs, services, and the deficit at the least harm to every employee. It also can be adjusted to lessen the impact on our lower paid employees. Human Resources Director Barbara Olivier, Chief Negotiator Brian McGrath, and Deputy Director Sean Otten have steadfastly carried out the board's directions in complex and often exhausting negotiations with 5 unions. They ought to be recognized and thanked for the tremendous work they do, especially at this critical time of reform. This budget, then, is about fair and humane reforms. It's about decisions that cannot be avoided any longer, about putting the county, the employees, and the public interest first. It is also a budget for the future, a budget that has to be crafted with a vision, restoring our reserves and regaining a top credit rating. We must have the ability to make key investments to create jobs and diversify our economy. Upgrading the county's fine hospital, the Riverside County Regional Medical Center, and expanding the public health clinic system would allow us to integrate with the UCR Medical School training, positioning us to capture maximum federal health care funding. And helping small businesses, especially those with the capacity to sell services and products abroad, has huge potential for the county. Already, there are county businesses who have more than made up for local business declines with new exports. Our Economic Development Agency under Rob Field and Tom Freeman has pursued this strategy with vigor and creativity, establishing 4 foreign trade zones. Riverside County is ranked second in the nation in foreign direct investment. This November 7th, the U.S. Department of Commerce will launch the Riverside County College of Trade and Exports with education and training seminars. State representatives have asked the county to write trade and export bills to help small businesses and the state compete abroad. The National Association of Counties was so impressed with our trade and export programs that it sought our help replicating them nationwide. As the conduit for over $42 million in federal job training funds this year and next, the Economic Development Agency has positioned the county to overcome losses in redevelopment funding by becoming the regional pivot point to grow the new economy. Getting our budget in order will restore the county's ability to tackle another obstacle holding us back and undermining our economic recovery. If you thought bankruptcy eliminated debtor prisons, consider the plight of homeowners. Of the 172,000 homes still underwater here and facing foreclosure, they're shackled to ongoing uncertainty, unable to move, hesitant to spend, and in an economic limbo with no end in sight. There could be no greater job or economic stimulus for this county than to clean up the foreclosure mess. Many of this county's troubled borrowers were not reckless, but reasonable debt levels became unbearable burdens as the bust wiped out equity and hurt unemployment. The county is going to have to take more concerted action here. Federal remedial efforts have been weak. Under the Troubled Asset Relief Program, some $50 billion was set aside for mortgage relief. Of that sum, only about $2 billion has been spent. Bailout money got to the banks, but the homeowners have received little. Banks objected to a proposed national settlement which did call for loan modifications that would produce deals that are in the best interest of homeowners and mortgage investors. Banks are said to be blocking such mutually beneficial deals so they can continue to extract fees. State Attorney General Kamala Harris has announced that her office will conduct its own investigation and push for needed foreclosure reforms. Riverside County must go to bat for our distressed homeowners to assure that relief is not delayed while wrongdoing is investigated. But the most powerful reasons to care about the financial stability of Riverside County are found in the stories of its people. Last Saturday morning, at one of the most beautiful and serene spots in the county, at El Carrizo, high atop the Ortega Highway, under the great oaks of the Cleveland National Forest, the California Wildland Firefighter Memorial was dedicated to the 403 who have been killed combating the state's terrible blazes. Among those present were families of those lost in Riverside County's Decker and Esperanza fires. 3 older retired firefighters who had been badly burned were there. When I shook the hand of one of these men to thank him for talking about his experiences, I noticed that several of his fingers had been burned off to the stumps. He told me it took 3 years and numerous operations for him to heal. Part of the time he had to lie on his back, which he just hated to do, while his hands were sewed to his stomach so his skin could regenerate. He said he hoped that the county's $150 million investment in a new comprehensive emergency communications and public safety data transmission system would give young firefighters an edge in fighting fires and in protecting themselves, the edge that didn't exist when he was burned. Now the old firefighter hoped out loud younger firefighters would have a better chance to be warned through the wind-blown smoke and flames so they wouldn't be trapped and burned. Thanks to the sheriff, fire and emergency staff, information technology, real property services, and the Economic Development Agency, and our vendor, Motorola, for their long and careful work of making sure that this new system delivers its critical objectives. If you are still not convinced that we all have an obligation to help restore the county's fiscal solvency, think of this firefighter. Remember his dream. Remember how much we owe him to achieve it. Thank you very much for attending.